Okay, chapter 9. Welcome back. Driving in city traffic, driving in urban traffic, and adjusting to city traffic. What would you do in this situation here? And, the main thing is, again, when you see, it's a tight space, you got cars around you parked on both sides and another car coming, it's to reduce speed. Reduce speed, go slow, and so you can make it through. A lot of times I see kids just kind of flying through this. Reduce your speed. Two main factors. Once you're comfortable making basic maneuvers and using the IPDE process, you'll be ready to start city driving. Two main factors make city driving difficult. Traffic is more dense in urban areas than it is in rural areas. More cars, buses, trucks, pedestrians per mile. City traffic hazards are closer to you than they are in rural areas. Mile for mile, city roads have the highest number and variety of hazards. Traffic density is the number of vehicles you meet per mile, and city hazards that can block your vision. As you drive, remember it takes time to use the IPDE process. You will have to contend with many situations with closed zones and line of sight restrictions. Following and meeting traffic. I don't think most of you are going to be driving in this type of traffic, like that 5 lanes across the road, but it's going to be, you're going to have to adjust a little bit as you're driving in busier roads. So what do? You need to maintain ample space between your vehicle and possible hazards in all driving environments. And you notice here, yeah. And you want to maintain a 3-second following distance behind the car in front of you. So you're counting 3 seconds, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippis, 3 Mississippis. And you're measuring when the back of the bumper of the car you're following, that's when you start counting. And then when your front bumper reaches that same kind of mile marker or that landmark, you should have, 3 seconds in between. And if you don't have 3 seconds, you need to back off a little bit. So what are the adequate following distance advantages? You can see further ahead to get the big picture. Others can see you better, and you have more time to use the IPD process. And also you're in a better position if the car makes a quick stop ahead of you. 3-second following distance. A 3-second following distance provides a safe space cushion from the vehicle ahead in most normal driving situations. The 3-second technique works well at speeds for measuring a normal following distance. The 3-second following distance is not the total stopping distance you would need to avoid hitting a stationary object. So which one of these is easier to see around and why? I would hope you would choose the one on the right? Because you cannot see around the semi-truck to the left. So if you're going to pass, then you just shouldn't be following that closely. Remember, I don't know if we've learned this yet or not, but a lot of times on the back of the truck, it'll say, like, if you can't see my mirrors, I can't see you. So this on the left side, that's really traveling in what we call a no zone. So in adverse conditions, increase your following distance to more than 3 seconds. Bad weather, or you need more time to complete the IPD process. And in both these situations, the one on the left looks like it's snowing pretty good. It's going to be less traction, kind of almost coming down a hill as well. And then on the white, it looks like either a little bit of ice or at least some heavy rain. So we're talking about 4 or 5, maybe a 6-second following distance, depending on the weather. You can't drive on, a street like in July, like you can maybe in January with the ice and snow. It's totally different. So if you pull up to a stop sign, thinking, traveling like you could in July and stopping, you're going to run into the car in front of you. So maintain extra distance in some of these situations. For one thing, you're just learning to drive, right? In the beginning, driver's ed and also first year or so in your driving. Also, a tailgating driver has closed your rear zone. So why do you maintain extra distance when you have a tailgater? Well, so what we're talking about is you increase the following distance of the car in front of you. So if it stops quickly, then you can kind of take your time in getting stopped. So there's not a kind of a domino effect of the car behind you. So anytime you're approaching a line of sight restriction where you can't see, traction is low, you're carrying a heavy load, it takes you longer to get stopped if you have a bunch of stuff you're carrying, a trailer or something. The driver ahead is, kind of weaving back and forth in their lane, and they're just not sure, or if you're following a motorcycle. Okay, besides the 3-second following rule, that's only one technique. Another thing to do is look over, look through, and around the vehicle you're following. Always try to anticipate what the driver ahead is likely to do in response to a changing zone condition. 3 areas for sudden stops, 3 high-risk areas where closed zones and sudden stops can happen. Intersections where drivers may have to stop for traffic or pedestrians, lanes next to parked cars, and then business driveways with high volume traffic. Determine a 3-second following distance, start counting as the rear of the car ahead. So like when that car, the back of the car passes that speed limit sign, and I'm gonna go 1001, 1002, 1003. And as long as my front bumper doesn't pass that same landmark, then we'd consider that safe. But if I get there in 2 seconds, it's too close. Okay, being followed, you're in a high-risk closed rear zone situation when someone tailgates you. Tailgating is following another vehicle too closely. Tailgating is an example of aggressive driving. A tailgater is a hazard because if you have to stop fast, the tailgating driver can hit you from the rear. So what to do first, increase your following distance to at least 4 seconds. Flash your brake lights ahead of time to warn a tailgate you're going to plan to stop. In extreme situations, change lanes or even pull over. So this is defensive driving. What do you do when or let's say a driver may cross the center line into your lane for impairment, like drinking, poor judgment, visibility, reduced speed, sudden moves, their vehicle fails, turning bus and trucks, double parked vehicles. If your right front is open, move into it and give the oncoming driver more room. So you want to avoid the conflict, slow until the other driver can return to the normal lane, turn on your flash or headlights and blow your horn. Try and turn to the right if possible to give the oncoming driver more room. So you don't want to steer to the left because sometimes they'll kind of wake up if they fell asleep, and then they would maybe steer that direction to their right, and you guys would hit head on. So you don't want to steer to the left. Managing space in city traffic. When driving in urban traffic, you must respond to a wide variety of situations. Unfamiliar streets you're not familiar with, line of sight restrictions, sometimes narrow lanes. High traffic makes the driving task difficult. To manage these situations, you'll need to use your best skills, combined with a positive heads-up, alert attitude. If the light is red in a city as you're approaching it, slow and be ready to stop. If the light is green when you first see it, predict it will change soon. Another trick is to watch for the pedestrian signal that has started to flash. Never speed up to get through a green light before it changes. Covering the brake means you're taking your foot off the accelerator and holding it over the brake pedal to be ready to brake quickly. You should cover the brake whenever you see a possible conflict. So you're not riding the brake, you're just covering the brake anytime that a pedestrian is near, or anytime that you anticipate that you're going to have a possible point of conflict. Riding the brake means you're resting your foot on the brake pedal while you're driving. That's what you don't want to do. When driving past parked cars, you should cover your brake and move left if possible. Look for drivers through windows of parked vehicles. Use your horn if needed. Be ready to stop or swerve left. Um, try, try to drive one door length away from parked cars if possible. So I've actually seen this in Ottumwa a few times. Going down Church Street, cars will open their door, and they shouldn't do that first. But then I've seen the driver swerve into the left lane, and all of a sudden then they hit another car, right? Whose fault is it? Well, it's still going to be your fault as the driver, because you should have checked over your shoulder before you move lanes. So when I say swerve to the left, you have to make sure that there's no car right in your oncoming lane. Otherwise, you just have to hit the brake. How far should you be to try to drive at least one car door length from the parked cars? Blending into traffic is one of the most common city driving skills you will need. 3 techniques to select your best driving speed. Drive with traffic flow, stay within the speed limit, adjust your speed and position ahead of time for other drivers who might block your way. Selecting the best lane. When driving in multi-lane traffic, you will use different lanes at different times. 5 rules for changing lanes. Use your mirrors to check your rear zone. Signal lane change, check your blind spot. Change lanes without slowing and cancel your signal. This is the best lane to drive in. Why? Typically the middle lane is better because you have parked cars on the edge, and then unless you're turning left, there's a left turn that a lot of times slows traffic there. So typically it's the middle center lane that you do most of the driving in. The term overtake means passing another vehicle. A blind intersection is one in which your view of traffic is impeded. Passing in a city can be dangerous because of pedestrians, cross traffic signals, and an endless number of sight restrictions. But passing is not illegal in a city. It's just like you're passing a bicycle, but you can't pass on any solid line. Special situations. Again, sometimes you got to stay in your lane and not pass because there's solid line or there's just no opportunity. Most city roadways are 2-way streets with 1 lane going in each direction. 1-way streets can improve greater volume of traffic with fewer conflicts. A lot of 1-way streets are in the downtown sections. Easiest way to tell you're on a 1-way street is a sign that tells you that. If there are parked cars in the same directions on both sides of the streets, you are on a 1-way street. If you drive on a 1-way street for a distance, try to avoid a lane that is next to parked vehicles. The other clue that you can tell is a 1-way street because it's white lines going in the same direction. If you encounter a vehicle headed the wrong way on a 1-way street, slow down, steer right, sound your horn. And this is showing wrong way fatalities. The slide's a little bit outdated, but it does happen. And this happens all of the time. Be prepared to stop. So cars are going to pull out in front of you. Cars are going to make mistakes. So you have to anticipate that that's going to happen and be prepared for that. You should not be driving out there, right, at any time and think that everybody's going to do exactly what they're supposed to do all the time. That would not be defensive driving. This is your biggest fear in a neighborhood. A small child will not stop, and it will be up to you. So, you as the driver have got to be the responsible person. Young kids, I've seen it in a driver's ed car, run out in front of us while we're driving. Because they don't have the mindset to know what actually can happen to them, because they mentally don't really quite understand it. And then B, they're just 6 years old, 8 years old. They're not very responsible. So you as the driver have to be the responsible one. Take your eyes off the road to reach down and get a pack of gum. check a text message, um, you know, fiddling at the radio too much, whatever, eating a sandwich, and that one time that kid runs out in front of you, you know, it would change your life forever as well. So driving's a full-time job, and in these situations, you know, there's no second chances. All right, thank you.